Ladies and gentlemen, the official party. Good morning. Yes, sir, please be seated. Welcome to today's press conference. I'm Major Chevelle Thomas. I'm the Media Relations Chief for the Joint Task Force National Capital Region. Thank you so much for being a part of our event today. In a few moments, our principal speakers will provide the opening remarks, which will be directly followed by questions and answers. Our speakers today include Major General Michael Lennington, Commander, Joint Task Force National Capital Region. Major General Errol Schwartz, Commander, National Guard, District of Columbia, Joint Forces Headquarters. Brigadier General Scanlon, Joint Task Force National Capital Region, Deputy for Inaugural Support. Brigadier General Arthur Henneman, National Guard, Joint Task Force District of Columbia, Commander for National Guard Operations. Major General Lennington and Brigadier General Scanlon will address questions regarding the military supporting role in the inauguration, months of planning between military and civilian entities, the large-scale movements of assets and resources, logistical considerations, and military staffing aspects for Inauguration Day 2013. Major General Schwartz and Brigadier General Henneman will address questions regarding the National Guard's support to civilian authorities, including crowd management, traffic control, and communications support. At this time, Major General Michael Lennington.
Thanks, Major Thomas. First of all, let me just thank everybody for being here. Ladies and gentlemen, my name is Major General Mike Lennington. I am the commander of the Joint Task Force National Capital Region, and I am responsible for the military ceremonial support for the 2013 presidential inauguration. January 21st, 40 days from today, marks the 57th time Americans will gather to witness our country's presidential inauguration, an event our military has participated in for almost 224 years. On April 30th, 1789, members of the Army, local militia units, and Revolutionary War veterans escorted George Washington to his first inaugural ceremony at Federal Hall in New York City for the presidential oath. Armed Forces personnel provide ceremonial support to the 57th presidential inauguration during the 10-day inaugural period from January 16th to January 25th, 2013. This support comprises musical units, marching bands, color guards, salute batteries, and honor cordons, which render appropriate ceremonial honors to our Commander-in-Chief. Approximately 7,500 service members from all four services and the Coast Guard are participating in ceremonial roles during the inaugural period. The Joint Task Force National Capital Region, the unit I command, is a joint service command including members from all branches of the Armed Forces of the United States: Army, Navy, Air Force, Marines, and Coast Guard. JTF National Capital Region is a subordinate command of U.S. Northern Command in Colorado Springs under the command of General Chuck Jacoby. Military support for the inauguration is appropriate, traditional, and important in my mind in honoring our President and Commander-in-Chief, while it also recognizes our commitment to civilian control of the military. Throughout the inaugural period, we'll strive to showcase the excellence of our military forces while demonstrating our dedication and commitment to duty. Planning events for several hundreds of thousands of visitors to the nation's capital, as you might imagine, is a monumental undertaking. But we're up for the challenge. DOD has temporarily increased our staff in the National Capital Region by 300 to 400 military personnel for the few months in advance of the inaugural period to help coordinate the 7,500 military personnel providing ceremonial support during the inaugural parade and inaugural period. Along with orchestrating the ceremonial aspects of the inauguration, our headquarters also provides invaluable assistance to the Presidential Inaugural Committee by collecting applications from prospective inaugural parade participants, providing planning and logistical support for the parade, and coordinating ceremonial participation by a host of military and civilian participants. Thus far, we have collected approximately 2,800 applicants to march in the parade. Based on thoroughness and completion of the packets, 317 have been vetted and submitted to the Presidential Inaugural Committee for consideration. Overall, we are expecting close to 10,000 individuals in this year's inaugural parade, 1,500 of which will be military marching personnel. All of the events of the next 40 days will be accomplished through the training, professionalism, and dedication of our military personnel and their families, and more importantly, the teamwork between the DC Guard, the National Guard in great measure, and ourselves. It is truly an historic and exciting time for the entire Joint Task Force National Capital Region team, and again, I'm proud to be a part of this team. Speaking of team, let me introduce my partner and battle buddy in this Herculean endeavor, the Commanding General, Joint Force Headquarters, District of Columbia National Guard, Major General Errol Schwartz. Errol?
Good morning. My name is Major General Errol Schwartz, and I'm the Commanding General of the District of Columbia National Guard. And I'm proud to be a part of this team working the 57th Presidential Inauguration. The DC National Guard has been a part of the inaugural ceremony since in the days of President Lincoln. And we have done this several times before. Our primary mission is in support of the local authorities and the federal government. We are working closely with DC Emergency Management Agency, the Park Police, and the United States Secret Service to perform the duties of the inauguration. We will have close to 6,000 Guards members, that is Air and Army, on the streets of Washington, D.C., coming from several states and territories to support the District of Columbia. They will be coming into the District of Columbia, processed in, and they will go out to several parts of the city where they'll support these events. They'll be housed close to the ceremonies so that they can walk to their missions because of the crowd that we may be working with. We are prepared to do everything that we've done in the past and continue to do the missions that we are currently doing on a day-to-day basis. That is protecting the skies over the Washington, D.C. area, providing medical support, and other activities to the nation's capital. We are the Capitol Guardians, and we are prepared to support the 57th Presidential Inauguration, making sure that it's safe and secure. Thank you very much.
At this time, Brigadier General James Scanlon.
Good morning. I'm very happy to be here. Thank you for coming out today. As Major Thomas mentioned, my name is Brigadier General James Scanlon. I am the Joint Task Force National Capital Region Deputy for Inaugural Support. I'm an Air Force Reserve officer brought in specifically to fill this position. As a deputy, I'm responsible for daily planning and coordination for all military ceremonial support for the 57th Presidential Inauguration. As Major General Linnington mentioned, military participation in the inauguration is a centuries-old tradition and is a way for the services to render appropriate honors to the President as the Commander-in-Chief. As Major General Linnington also mentioned, we are a joint command represented by all services and our DOD civilians. Additionally, we are a total force unit, which means that we have a mix of active Guard and Reserve service members working side by side to plan and execute the ceremonial support for the inauguration. Day to day, we work very closely with the Presidential Inaugural Committee. That is the organization that is responsible for actually putting on the inauguration, and the Joint Congressional Committee on Inaugural Ceremonies, the JCIC, which has the constitutional responsibility to conduct the swearing-in ceremony up on Capitol Hill. So as you can imagine, this is quite a large undertaking. I'm very, very honored to be working with such a great team of professionals. This is the first time that I will participate in a presidential inauguration, and it's a tremendous honor, and I'm both proud and humbled to have this opportunity. I'll be happy to take your questions following the opening remarks, but at this time I'd like to introduce to you Brigadier General Arthur Hinneman, my Guard counterpart, who is the Joint Task Force District of Columbia Commander for National Guard Operations. Thank you.
Thank you. Good morning. My name is Brigadier General Art Hinneman. I'm the commander of Joint Task Force District of Columbia, as mentioned, for the National Guard operations in support of the civil authorities for the presidential inauguration. Approximately 6,000 National Guard soldiers and airmen will be working for Joint Task Force District of Columbia. They come from about 15 states, territories, and District of Columbia, to include Virginia, Maryland, Delaware, West Virginia, Pennsylvania, Iowa, even Puerto Rico, to name a few, several more. These National Guard soldiers and airmen will be deputized by the Metropolitan Police Department and will provide a myriad of support to the civil authorities for the inauguration. This includes, as mentioned before, traffic control around the Capitol, the White House, the National Mall, crowd management, communication support, logistics, and any needed medical support. Many of our soldiers and airmen performed similar functions during the 2009 inauguration. The National Guard has strong partnerships with the D.C. Metropolitan Police Department, the D.C. Fire and Emergency Management, D.C. Department of Transportation, the United States Secret Service, the United States Park Police, the United States Capitol Police, Homeland Security, the North American Aerospace Defense, and Northern Command, and of course our Joint Task Force NCR partners. We'll be working with these partners to ensure synchronization and unity of effort during the inauguration. The National Guard leadership has been working diligently with our partners and our personnel and planning efforts for the past year. Our soldiers and airmen are prepared for our mission just as we were in 2009 for the largest inauguration in history. So I'd be happy to take questions regarding our participation in the operation after these opening remarks. Thank you.
Okay, we're going to have a 30-minute question and answer session. Please keep your questions within the subject area. All comments are definitely on the record. Toward the end of the 25 minutes, I will indicate how many more questions we have time for. In order to ensure that as many of you as possible have the opportunity to ask a question, we ask that you limit your question to one question and one follow-up. If time permits, we may call on you again for additional questions. When called upon, please state your name and affiliation for the record so we can ensure you get the information you need if it is not provided here today. Press kits are available online. If you have not already done so, please ensure all your cell phones, well, we've already covered that part. Okay. Ladies and gentlemen, at this time, we will open the floor for questions. Yes, sir.
Good morning, General. Ken Klein, Voice of America. There have been forecasts of a slightly smaller crowd this fall than the history-making crowd of 2009. Are you prepared for a slightly smaller crowd, and how would that change the way you get there?
We are preparing in a similar way that we prepared for in 2009. Even though the crowd set is smaller, we are still looking at what are the possibilities that may occur within the smaller crowds. We are looking at our sets, if you will, the skill sets that we are putting on the mall, for example, which will house the largest crowd to make sure that we can react to any situation that may happen on the mall.
And about how many personnel, military personnel overall are involved in this entire effort?
On the active side, we have about 7,500, and the ceremonial aspect of it, whether it's supporting the different events in DC or actually marching in the parade, will be about the same. In fact, almost identical to what it was in 2009. Where there's a difference is, I think, the size of the crowd may dictate larger or smaller viewing areas on the mall, et cetera.
On the National Guard side, we will have 6,000, roughly 6,000 personnel, Army and Air, to support the local authorities.
Bruce LaShan from WUSA TV here. You know, this is a ceremony for all Americans, and I know it was difficult for some people to get in 4 years ago, in part because there were 1.8 million folks. How much of a priority is it to you guys to make sure that people who want to come down and see this on the mall get to see it and aren't overly intimidated by intense security?
Yeah, I'll say from our perspective, the lessons learned from 2009 have all been incorporated in the security plan this year. And in fact, what they're rehearsing right now out on the floor is that exact plan. So extended hours for public transportation, buses, metro, opening of additional bridges, and making it more accessible to people to come in is the plan.
And so
So,
people will be able to watch the swearing-in ceremony all up and down the mall, and then how much access is there going to be on Pennsylvania Avenue?
the parade will be similar to last year's parade in terms of access, and the mall, as you know, last year, the mall was the first time that the entire mall was opened up.
4 years ago.
2009, I said last year, 4 years ago. First time the mall was opened up for public viewing, and that's occurring again this year. And that's pretty much unprecedented for a second term. So I think if anybody's interested in coming out to watch the inauguration, I think there will be much easier access this year and a great opportunity to watch a historic event.
And then along the parade, I just, you started answering the parade, and I just wanted, you said similar, so do you end up having to have a ticket or something to get on the parade route, or what, talk to us about that?
You don't necessarily need a ticket to get on the parade route, and frankly, the final details of exactly how that's all going to be laid out are still to be worked, to be honest with you. Really, that's a cooperative effort of all the other agencies that involved. As you can imagine, there's a number of state, federal, local agencies that kind of coordinate all this, and those final details, really, we leave that to the PIC. Honestly, the Presidential Inaugural Committee is the host for all of this, so a lot of the decisions are left to them, and we obviously provide the support that they request from us.
The gentleman, CNN. Can you state your name and?
From CNN. You mentioned a number of military, 7,500 active duty, 6,000 retired, and you said the ceremonial numbers would be about the same as last year. Could you give us a specific number as to what that was?
It's about 1,500 active component, about 1,500 to 2,000 marchers, and the rest are providing ceremonial support, street cordons, presidential escort, et cetera. So, yeah, I figure it's about 4,000 or so military support mostly from the local area, and then about 2,000 marchers, which include, service academies, marching elements from outside the National Capital Region, et cetera.
So the 7,500 includes the money.
That's correct.
Okay. And another number question, I'm sorry. You said there was 1.8 last time. You expected it to be smaller. Have they given you any idea how small it's going to be?
I wasn't sure about, it was more than 1 million. I'm not sure how many were actually in the city last time, but no, I don't know the number, and frankly, the PIC may be better served to provide that estimate.
Next question.
Hey, Trace, how are you? I see you back there.
Good to see you.
General Schwartz, you talked about skill set on the wall. What sort of personnel are you putting down there?
Well, we are looking at more of our law enforcement folks in the Army, the military police, or security forces from the Air Force. They would have a good eye for those kinds of crowd management issues. So I'm looking at that skill set as a priority. The suburban piece is being handled separately, but for the crowd management piece, we are looking at military police or security forces.
Next question. Yes, in the back.
Hi, Julia Lamarche from WJLA. Can you talk about the benefit of having a map of that size that we just saw that helps you with your planning as opposed to maybe a piece of paper when you're trying to work through all of these routes with the streets?
Yeah, the rehearsal that's going on right now that we'll join here shortly allows the different participating units to physically walk on the map as they're speaking through what they're doing. So along with, on the overhead, having a synchronized time, a time sequence that shows what's going on, they'll walk and talk what they're actually doing. And the military does rehearsals better than anybody, so that as they're walking through the routes, folks that are along the routes or have other events taking place can see the effect of what's going on with what their event is. So it's a very good tool for synchronizing events in time and space, and that's why we use the big map board, and we're very thankful that the Guard gave us this facility to use, because it does require a big space.
And I would just add that when you're looking at what we're moving around, it's not just the military folks. We're helping to facilitate all the parade. The majority of the parade is civilian, and we have to help stage and move those folks as well. So it's an incredible amount of folks that have to be moved into the mall area and to the parade route, et cetera. So that map really helps us synchronize those
Yeah,
efforts.
and that's a great point. Staging the bands, the floats, the horse units, the buses, infiltrating those elements and then exfilling them all in one day is a pretty important and very difficult task. But to do it on a big map, once you see it all happen, it helps you deconflict all those movements in a very high security environment.
Yes, ma'am, in the front.
Hi, I'm Jennifer Wishon with CBN News. I know you all are planning for lots of different scenarios and, can't anticipate the future, but can you talk about, anything in particular that gives you anxiety, heartburn as you think about the next 40 days and inauguration day? Anything in particular that's giving you anxiety?
Ceremonially, for me, it's weather. I mean, as you look at safety and force protection of your ceremonial units, if it's bitter cold and snowing, it makes life more complicated. So weather would be first and foremost on my mind. Earl?
I think that it's true the weather will be, and the individuals who are coming to the ceremony will have to understand that it's going to be cold. They'll be standing for a long time. They'll be walking a long ways, if you will. For example, most of the buses will be parked out here at RFK Stadium, and some folks may elect to walk from here to the mall. That's a long walk in the cold, and so we are concerned about individuals making sure that the health considerations are taken care of, etc.
Yes, sir, for the cameraman over here.
Hi, AJ Shabar from Washington Post. Logistics question. In terms of getting the staging area, the Capitol, the mall, the route all set up, how long will that take, and then how long to sort of mark all that and
I'll turn it over to General Scanlon here in a second. It's amazing how quickly it takes place. We're doing several rehearsals, as you might imagine, but the actual final setup and staging of the ceremonial events on Pennsylvania Avenue, et cetera, take place within 24 hours of the event. So the residents are put out a very marginal amount of time, considering the size and the scale of the event. Jim?
It truly is. I mean, that's quite a ballet when you think about it. And if you look now, obviously you'll see the reviewing stand by the White House is already under construction. They stand up on the West Capitol front already under construction. So there's a lot being done that we can do now. And then, as General Linnington said, in the wee hours of the morning prior to the inauguration, that's when a lot of the finer details will be set up. And we have things like warming tents on the mall for the parade participants, and obviously all the bike racks and the barriers that are put up. That all happens in the wee hours of the morning, kind of prior on Monday morning, the 21st.
And the traffic lights and everything else that will be taken down and would have to be back up, erected for rush hour the next morning is also a critical plan. So it will be ready for rush hour the next day. So literally they'll be working on those.
I'm sorry, so along Pennsylvania Avenue?
Stripped.
Them down?
Absolutely.
Everything's stripped. Pennsylvania Avenue's all happens within 24 hours of the
All
event.
the traffic.
And so think about that. I mean, the cooperation amongst the mission partners and all the different entities you have involved in that, DC Metro Police, National Park Service, DOT, all of these organizations have to come together, and it's a pretty coordinated plan. And as I said, it's a ballet, synchronizing all of those efforts.
And the district had their rehearsal yesterday, and they went through all of those drills also.
The gentleman on the far left over here.
Tom Howell, Washington Times. Can you talk at all, with all the people that are going to be downtown, any methods of technological surveillance
Secret Service is the lead federal agent for security, and and we obviously can't talk about some of the more nuanced things they're doing.
Do you have a follow-on question?
So, I mean, Secret Service pretty much run that, or is being organized as well?
The military is not.
No, Secret Service and DC Police.
Yeah.
Yes, sir.
Follow-up question. Who pays? Who pays for all the military?
Largely for us, because most of the ceremonial units are local. It's all the, for instance, the Military District of Washington provides the Army's ceremonial troops for this event. Most of the costs for military participation are sunk costs. So for us, it's a pretty cheap endeavor. And then for all the other events that are taking place, the PIC is raising funds now to pay for all the other events, other than the military
By some
participation.
costs, you mean costs already built into the DOD budget year to year? This will
It
happen
certainly has
each
been,
year.
it certainly has been part of my budget. And then for the troops that are stationed in the National Capital Region, it's a weekend, you're working on the weekend, your pay and transportation is all the costs. We bear over and above our normal costs. Now, for the units coming from outside the area, the services are paying the price, the costs for getting their ceremonial units in here, and the services pay those costs.
Any other questions? Cameraman? Yes, sir, you.
Hi, Dick Giuliano from WTOP Radio. General Lennington, in '09, we had that unfortunate incident with the people stuck in the 3rd Street Tunnel. You mentioned lessons learned, and you also indicated that there will be much easier access. Can you say anything more about that, about how access might be improved? For example, will there be fewer road closures, or how exactly might you increase access to this event?
Yeah, let me pass that over to General Schwartz, and then I'll take follow-up here if required.
On the specific topic of the tunnel, that was raised yesterday in the rock drill with the city, and the 3rd Street Tunnel will be closed to all vehicular traffic and pedestrian traffic for this event. The only traffic that will be going through the 3rd Street Tunnel will be for emergency purposes only.
All day, or what's the time frame?
Yes, I'll have to refer to the Metropolitan Police Department to give you the timing on that. But that specific question I asked yesterday, and they are in control to make sure that what happened in 2009 with the 3rd Street Tunnel does not happen again.
Yes, sir.
Again, Kent Klein, DOA. Could you talk a little bit, even beyond the military role in this, about the symbolism of a presidential inaugural as a symbol of our country?
It's why we're so honored to participate. It is the largest, I believe it's the largest international event that takes place and represents the strength of our nation and the strength of our democracy. It's why, in my opinion, it's so important for the military to participate as we have since 1789 and do it right. And it's frankly why we put so much effort into what you saw today out on the map floor. By the way, that's one of about 15 or 20 more rehearsals we'll do between now and the 21st, including a full force rehearsal in DC about a week prior to the event. So we're honored to participate. It is a symbol of our strength and our democracy, and I think it's an important event for us to do right in front of the eyes of the world.
And that's one of the things that the DC National Guard is proud of. We have participated, as I said in my opening remarks, since the inauguration of President Lincoln. This is personally my 9th inauguration that I'm doing. And I think we have the skill sets and we have the know-how to do this. And we want to make sure that in the eyes of the world, we show what a peaceful transition of power looks like.
Yes, sir.
Now, I'm sorry, following on Dick's question, again, actually 4 years ago, there were a lot of people who had tickets for the West Front and who got held up because the security was so
You know, it's really not, that's not the military's role. I mean, that you have the Secret Service, you have Metro PD, you have a number of agencies that are responsible and coordinate all that. Presidential Inaugural Committee, the Joint Congressional Committee on Inaugural Ceremonies, those are all the entities that coordinate that effort, quite frankly. I mean, we, the military, on our side of the house, ceremonial support, certainly the Guard side of the house, traffic manager, but at the direction of those agencies, in support of those agencies, they make those decisions.
Any other questions?
One more. Colonel Livingston, did I hear you say you had 2,800 applicants? Was that for the parade?
For the parade, yes, sir.
Can you tell us anything about the applicants you have? These are what, bands?
They're bands, they're silent walking units, they're different, any group in the country that wants to participate in the parade can go online and apply to participate in the parade. And then one of the things we do in my headquarters is we look at those applications, we look at the quality of the applications and the quality of the participating units, and we present that information to the Presidential Inaugural Committee. And they're right now in the process of selecting those groups, bands, horse elements, floats, to participate in the parade. So, as you can imagine, everybody wants to participate. They're trying to be as inclusive as possible, all 50 states and territories and demographics. And those decisions will be made in probably the next month or so that selects the specific units that get to walk.
Can you say if among those 300 that you submitted for vetting, was there anything particularly unique or fantastic?
Well, I'll let Jim talk about what we do, but it's fascinating to see the level of effort that goes into submitting these applications, which include videos, pictures, and we tee all that up for the pick before they make the decisions. Jim?
There really is just a broad range of applicants. As General Linnington said, we have marching bands, you have mounted units, you have silent marching units. And all we truly do is we try to organize and collate all those applications to make it as presentable as possible, so to try and help the PIC make their decisions. They go through their painstaking process of reviewing all these applications. Obviously, it's a very highly sought-after honor to be able to march in the parade, and they take that very seriously. So they take a lot of time to go through all of those applications. For historical purposes, last inauguration, I think there was approximately 130 units, civilian units selected to march in the parade. So you can imagine if you have interest of up to 2,000 to 3,000 with 600 completed applications, it's a pretty significant process to go through to select those units.
Yes, sir, in the front.
Hey, sir, I love the Army research. You threw out some numbers earlier, and I'm still clear. Can you guys say a number, total number of active duty reserve guards, Army, Navy, Air Force, or military personnel that would be not involved in marching in the parade, but doing work outside, like security, standing around the team? Total number?
Most of the National Guard individuals will be outside of the parade route. There are a few inside of 300 that will be involved in the ceremonial piece, the marching elements. Most of the National Guard folks will be involved with traffic control, crowd control, and those kinds of support to the local authorities. The local authority has the lead, and we are in support of them, and we will have close to 5,000, 5,500 individuals that are helping the local authorities.
And the number I gave was 7,500 active component military forces, all services. 1,500 of those are marching in the parade, and then the remainder are performing ceremonial duties, be they street cordons, ushers at the inaugural event, support personnel, drivers, a whole host of capabilities from across the National Capital Region largely, and in a few specific cases from outside the NCR.
Yeah, this is a full spectrum operation that we are doing, so there are quite a few individuals in the background, even mechanics, to work on our vehicles that are in support of.
Any further questions? Yes, sir, in the front with the blue shirt.
Yeah, hi. This is Barry Schroeder, CNN. approaching the guardsmen, is there something recognizable? Is there some uniform thing? Or something?
No, a guardsman in his Title 32 status is the only military individual who can be deputized to augment law enforcement. And we do that as a force multiplier for the local authorities so that we can fully assist the local authorities in the prosecution of their mission.
Right, but a civilian approaching a guardsman doesn't recognize.
There's no difference. There's no difference.
Any other questions? Yes, ma'am.
We were talking about the election, that's for civilian position, correct?
That is correct.
Who takes the more?
The military units, year to year, or for every 4 years, is pretty much about the same. You'll have they lead, there are 5 divisions in the parade traditionally. Each division will be led by one of the services: Army, Navy, Marine Corps, Air Force, and then Coast Guard. In that element, there'll be a band element, one of the service bands. There'll be an active duty platoon. There'll be a reserve, a guard from each one of those services, and then the service academy represented. And they lead the civilian contingent behind them. So that's usually pretty fixed. Year to year, varies maybe by a couple hundred.
We have time for maybe 2 or 3 more questions. Yes, sir.
Hi, Robert Grill, Flashy and Goody New Jersey. You mentioned equestrian units. Do you have an idea of roughly how many horses are going to be involved?
Again, that's at the discretion of the Presidential Inaugural Committee. I think there are somewhere on the order of 200 horses involved last inauguration. Whether that'll hold fast is really up to the pick.
Are they primarily stable in this primary area outside?
They are, exactly. Would they come into town from wherever they're selected? I mean, they could be selected, you pick the state. It's the responsibility of the organization that volunteers to transport their unit, horses, whatever they have, into the city.
Not necessarily a centralized.
They will stage outside the city, at a local area outside the city, and then early in the morning of the parade, they will be brought into the secure zone and staged in the secure zone and then merged into the parade.
Young lady in the middle here. Yes, ma'am.
Hi, I know your name is Wolf. Can you talk about how you're continuing to do folks to see them more repeated on this map before?
Couple dozen anyway. Couple dozen, not 2,000. Couple dozen.
I said a couple dozen. Did I say a couple dozen?
Oh, did you? Maybe I heard you. A couple dozen.
For the record, a dozen. More than 1,000. It's been a long morning. So, you're talking about doing these, that was really nice inauguration on that. What are some of, that, can you give me examples of, are you doing sort of the same thing over and over again, or is it to make sure that everyone knows to be in the right place? Are there things that you see that you want to keep or maybe do differently from year to year?
It's really a different focus at each of the rehearsals. Today's rehearsal is ceremonial rehearsal, where we're synchronizing all the ceremonial events that'll take place and the support for those ceremonial events on Inauguration Day. So today's focus is on the 21st. Whether it be law enforcement, logistics, medical, DCH, SEMA, Secret Service, or others are also doing specific rehearsals for the different capabilities that they're synchronizing. So I don't know if that answers your question or if others would like to. And all the rehearsals aren't taking place here. General Schwartz has given up his facility for several of them. Several of the other rehearsals are taking place on military installations or other federal, state, local gatherings in the local area.
I wanted to follow up, so, obviously this is something that you folks perform year after year, and many of you are veterans of this office, and, you want to do something with standard operating procedure, but of course every year is different. So is this for the benefit of people who are new and are doing this for the first time, or are you looking to see what can be done differently this year?
From our perspective, because folks come in and out every 2 or 3 years, new assignments. This is my first one. It's General Scanlon's first one. So it was really to get everybody on board with the months of planning that have taken place up to this point, and then make sure that in the final 40 days, the final stages of the event, there's no missteps or misunderstanding about how the events take place. I'll let General Schwartz speak, but this is his 9th, I think, or 8th inauguration. I mean, he is, whenever I have a question on how things go, I lean on him. They've done this often.
In the National Guard, our soldiers and airmen have done this quite a few times, so on the average of 4 times. So it's tweaking to make sure that we understand what the mission is. Prior to 2005, the DC National Guard did this all by themselves. In 2005, we brought in 120 folks. In 2009, we brought in 7,000. So it's a varying number, so you have to tweak all of those plans, making sure that everyone who comes in the city is registered through our process and reverse process out of the city, so we can account for every individual and equipment coming into the city and leaving the city.
Actually, if I may, that's part of the importance of having so many rehearsals is we don't have 6,000 people sitting here waiting for the inauguration to happen. We're going to bring people in just in time and get them out of here as soon as it's over. So it's important as we have partners coming in, members coming in, that they get the opportunity to roll through their part and exercise it and see how they fit in the synchronization and timing.
Any follow-on questions, any additional questions? Okay.
Thank you very
Thank you
much.
so much. That concludes our press conference.